Is Notre Dame ranked too high in the initial college football playoff ranking?
Locked On presents The Portal, the daily podcast covering college football recruiting and everything NIL. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
To the Portal Podcast, where you get your daily recruiting, NIL, and transfer portal scoop. I'm your host, Brian Smith, longtime college football recruiting analyst. Thank you for making the Portal Podcast a part of your day each and every day right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. New customers can bet $5, and if that bet hits, $300 in bonus bets is coming your way. We will be talking about FanDuel a little bit later on in the show. Right now, we've got some recruiting news to get to a little bit later in the show as well. Decommitments, including a big-time defensive lineman and some guys coming off the board, some good players. Not a super busy day when recruiting, but every day we want to talk about that. That's later in the show. But overall, we're going to be talking about where Notre Dame's placed, where Miami's placed, where BYU's placed, and overall the theme, the number one theme, just to use as a barometer, is Notre Dame at number 10 too high in the ranking? I don't think they are, but it's the teams around them. If you take nothing else from what I say today, it's the teams around them. There's one I think it's too high and one that I think is too low. That is my key. So here's what I think. Notre Dame, about right. 10, maybe 12, somewhere in that range. I'm okay with it. It's the initial poll. But BYU at 7, I think the committee is far, far, far too much about what your win-loss record is instead of who you've beaten. To that point, I want to talk a little bit about BYU's schedule. So we'll compare it. We'll talk about Notre Dame and especially Miami. I think they've gotten the worst ranking out of this by far, but they also shot themselves in the foot. So BYU, they've got wins over some quality teams. They do. They won on the road. They beat East Carolina. They beat Colorado in a close game, and now Colorado is awful. They should probably be penalized a little bit for that. West Virginia, they beat them by a couple of scores. They're okay. Arizona, they're solid, not great, but they only beat them by 6. Utah, that's a good win. Utah came to BYU. A lot of people thought they were going to win. BYU outlasted them, won a close game 24-21. Then they went on the road last week, started a little slow against Iowa State, but they came back and won by 2 scores. But how many teams have they played that are really, really good? Utah, I will give you 100%. That is a good football team. Iowa State's solid, but they've disappointed this year. Who else is somebody that could even compete for the playoff? Yet the committee has them number 7. So I think they're too high. Do you really think on a neutral field, Vegas would rank Notre Dame below? Then, like, where would that game be? Notre Dame plus or -7, -10? I don't know. But BYU, and then against Miami, I would take Miami too. They put too much emphasis on who's just won, not who is better. And I get that you got to play the games and they have to matter 100%. But I think BYU is the team ranked too far. Notre Dame, I could see them at 10. Again, I think they're a pretty good team. They lost those first 2 games very close. Their defense is kind of hard to judge. They're like 120th in pass defense, but they also lead the nation in interceptions with 16. I mean, they're number 1. They get big plays, and their defense is now much healthier in the secondary because Leonard Moore is playing and playing well. And Tay Johnson is an elite safety that has emerged. He wasn't even a starter at the beginning of the year. Now he's playing like an All-American. We'll see where Notre Dame goes from here. They got a few tough games left. Got Navy this weekend. They'll probably beat them pretty good. But Pittsburgh in particular, that's the game coming up that I'm curious about. Miami also has them on the road, the last game of the season. The South Florida team going all the way to Pittsburgh in late November. That'll be pretty interesting. Speaking of the Canes, I want to compare them to Notre Dame because they beat them in week 1, 27-24, August 31st in Hard Rock Stadium in South Florida. I think they are probably the number 2 category for me on where the committee's going. And again, far and away, the number 1 thing they're looking at is just win-loss record. It's not even close. If you've got BYU number 7, and I'll go ahead, matter of fact, I'll just go ahead and throw up the rankings just so everybody can see them. But it is what it is. You can't quite see it on my screen here, but number 12 is Oklahoma. So essentially at Notre Dame, that's where you get cut off because you got to have an ACC champion. You got to project somebody. Is it Virginia or whoever? It's going to be an ACC champion. That'll end up being number 11. And number 12 will probably be Memphis right now if it was decided. So the last 2 spots are a little iffy, but number 11 by the ranking is Texas, and then number 12 is Oklahoma. So just for the record. But looking at Miami, they're very interesting because they started hot and then they've lost 2 of their last 3. The only game they defeated anybody was Stanford. And let's be honest, Stanford is bad. They are very bad. Um, do I think that Miami deserves to be higher than 18th? 100%. 100%. They beat Notre Dame. They've looked good. They beat Florida. They beat USF. Those are quality football teams in their own way. I don't think they're unbelievable by any means. And they are absolutely sleepwalking at the beginning of the Louisville game where they'd have won. And they beat themselves against SMU and probably didn't get the exact benefits of the officiating in that game either. By the way, we've got a major college football officiating problem across the spectrum. But Miami, the recency bias is killing them. Notre Dame has won, I believe, 6 in a row, whereas Miami's lost 2 of 3. But they beat Notre Dame head to head. First things first, you got to be good all the time. Miami, you can't lose 2 games to teams outside the top 25. I would not rank you ahead of Notre Dame. I wouldn't. Do I think you should be ranked higher? 100%. 18th is ridiculous. Somewhere between 12 and 15 is fine, but 18th just shows no respect. I don't get it, and I'm not sure why they're quite that low, but here's my guess for category 3. The playoff committee, they'll never admit this. They want games that are good for TV, and the biggest thing that draws eyeballs is quarterback play. Does anybody want to guess how many picks Carson Beck has thrown against winning FBS teams this year? It's 4 games. How many do you think? It's 8 in 4 games against winning competition. That's not good. He's got 7 touchdowns and he's throwing for 71%. Those are good. But when he misses and he's off kilter with his receivers, or a couple that are probably more receiver fault, just to be kind, than they are Carson Beck's. But that's a problem. I think, again, your record is number 1. How you've done recently in quarterback play are the 3 biggest barometers. Look at the teams that are in the top 5 to 7. Even Bear Bachmeier at BYU, by the way, that's a great story. He's a true freshman. He's pretty consistent. He runs the ball just as well as he throws it, but they're undefeated. They haven't beat hardly anybody, but again, they don't value schedule the way they should. It's about wins and losses. And you kind of go down, Notre Dame, solid schedule, but they haven't beat anybody great. USC's their best win. They're okay. It's about wins and losses. And then Miami, not trending in the right direction. Quarterback play is a problem in the eyes not only of me, but the committee, and it's very, very clear. So when we come back, I want to talk about what does Miami have to do, or Notre Dame or BYU, to increase their odds of not only getting into the playoff, but doing something with it. That is next here on this edition of the Locked On Portal podcast. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or want to get in on the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets from everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making a late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Head to FanDuel.com, sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Thank you once again for making the Portal Podcast a part of your day each and every day right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. We're going to be doing noon shows talking about the playoff, coaching carousel, recruiting, decommitments, and of course, the transfer portal and NIL itself. We got a wide variety in November, December, and January. It's the best 3 months of the year for this channel. Make sure you like and subscribe, become an everydayer. We've also got shows come out early in the morning, audio at 3 a.m. Eastern and 5 a.m. will be for YouTube. Having fun with this, though, let's talk a little bit about the 3 teams that I've kind of talked about today. Notre Dame in particular is the theme. They just got to win out. Do not discount Pittsburgh. If Notre Dame wins out and they beat Pitt, it's a road game. I think they've got a pretty good chance to end up with the number 7 or 8 seed, somewhere in that variety. I think it's straightforward for the Irish. BYU is the most complicated, and Miami is the one that I never know what's going to happen with Miami. They are a Jekyll and Hyde, but I do not envy Syracuse this weekend. They play at Miami, and those guys watch that ranking committee, put them at number 18. I'm not a betting man at all. I would lay the points. I would lay the points because Miami is probably not going to be very happy. And Syracuse, quite frankly, has tailed off considerably. Look for Miami to put a spanking on them and them to move up a couple spots in the poll next week. I could be wrong, but I think that's what's going to happen. Now, let's talk a little bit in regards to the schedule for the Cougars. This is challenging, but it may be this if it worked out perfectly for them. And this is a big one. Could it happen where BYU goes not only undefeated in the regular season, but wins the Big 12 title game? Technically, I don't think there's a very good chance of that. And I actually think there's a better chance that the Cougars would lose twice. Two reasons I bring it up. Number one, Notre Dame probably wants BYU to lose because they got a chance to jump in pretty quick. Number two, does the Big 12 get more than one in? If BYU beats Texas Tech this coming weekend on the road, key here, it's in Lubbock. That will not be an easy place to play. Here's the schedule that's remaining for Brigham Young, at least for the regular season. They got Texas Tech coming up. Tough game, road competition there. Then you got TCU coming to BYU. Then they go to Cincinnati, a team that laid an egg here recently, but they've had a really good season. And then they finish at home against UCF. They should absolutely annihilate the Knights. But if they somehow beat Tech, TCU, and Cincinnati, again, I'll be shocked if they have any problems at all with UCF. Where would you put BYU? Could they end up skipping over if they go undefeated in the regular season? Could they at least go into that championship weekend ranked ahead of a Georgia or somebody like that if they keep winning? It's possible. I don't think it's deserved necessarily. Their schedule is going to improve, but are they better than a Georgia or Bama or any of those teams right there? I don't think so. I think Bama's a little overrated because they don't run the ball very well and their run defense is just okay. But I still think they're better than BYU. Again, the biggest thing from this today, from studying all this, the committee values wins way too much and not the strength of schedule. But I digress. So my pick here is that Texas Tech will beat BYU, and then I think they'll beat them again in the championship game. It wouldn't shock me if BYU, ended up losing at Cincinnati. Road game, you never know, freshman quarterback. But they're better than Cincinnati. But the Bearcats can run the ball. They've got a veteran quarterback that's a grad student. It's possible. TCU also has a future NFL quarterback, but their defense leaves a lot to be desired. So it's possible. As for Notre Dame, even one loss by BYU, I bet you they end up jumping them. That's my guess. As for Miami, there's one way to the playoff. There's only one. Obviously, you got to win out. That's the low-hanging fruit. Throw that to the side. But you need a couple of teams ahead of you to just knock each other off. You need LSU to beat Oklahoma on the last weekend. Recency bias matters. LSU doesn't have their head coach. It's a road game in Norman, etc. You also need a couple of the other teams, BYU being one of them, to lay an egg. Maybe Tech gets beat this weekend, and then BYU or vice versa, like they beat each other up. I don't know. But you have a chance somewhere in there. And then, of course, the rest of the ACC, we'll see how that goes. But Miami's got a very swim path. Their best thing to do is just worry about themselves and win every game by 20 plus, including that game they play last weekend of the season. This is a hard ask. Can Miami win by 20 or more? And I literally mean by 20 or more. It needs to be the eye candy that the committee wants to see. If it's not, Miami's not going to make the playoff. They're going to come up short. They're not going to be in the ACC title game. They're not going to make an at-large as like the third team in the ACC. That league's going to be a one or two bid league. They're not going to make it. So they need some chaos in the ACC. They need Oklahoma, Texas, etc. to beat up on each other in terms of the SEC play. They've already played. But, maybe Georgia, maybe somebody else, whoever it is, needs to lay an egg. So it's going to be very difficult for the Canes. But you know what? Here's the reality with Miami. I talked with Alex Dono earlier today, and we did a show on a crossover, Locked on Canes and Locked on the Portal. It'll be up Wednesday morning, 3 a.m. audio, 5 a.m. on YouTube. And he was just honest. He's like, you know what? They're 4-9 in November under Mario. And if you count the bowls, they're 4-11. I mean, they just don't get it done at the end of the year. And he has his own explanation. If you want to see it, it's middle to second half part of the show. You can check it out. But why is it that Miami every year struggles with teams that don't have the same roster that they do? And this is predating Mario Cristobal too. Before I went on the air with Alex, he said he's got fans that are saying Mario needs to be fired. I mean, give me a break. A, who would they hire? B, do you realize who hired him? A lot of the boosters are his personal friends. The chances of him being fired are about the chances of me becoming 6'10" tomorrow. By the way, I'm about 5'9.5". It's not going to happen. I don't think there's any chance the Cristobal is going anywhere. That aside, they do find a way to shoot themselves in the foot. They were the worst major college football playoff team in November over the last decade. They just, even in 2017, really good team. They finished the year 3 straight losses. They just shoot themselves in the foot. It's wild. Multiple coaches, different quarterbacks, different coordinators, same result. Really is odd. And I don't really understand it, but that's just reality. So with that, when we come back, I'm going to talk about the latest commitments, decommitments, and kind of what's next. We're going to see some more firings. Oh, yes, we are. We're going to see more firings coming up, and that's going to impact recruiting and the transfer portal. That is next here on the Portal Podcast. All right, let's discuss the latest decommitments, commitments, and just kind of what's going on, and then broaden it out a little bit with what's happening. I saw Hayes Fawcett put out a post, and I was like, oh, looky here. It's not that often that you get a late decommitment from a defensive lineman that's a really good player. Well, that's something that's going on right now. Emanuel Ruffin, big defensive lineman, 300-pounder out of the state of Alabama, decommitted. He's no longer with the Buffaloes. LSU, Ohio State, Missouri, Florida, Alabama, and Auburn are on the board. This is a kid that everybody would like to have. You can't find enough 300-pound guys that can move. He's on the board. Right now, Ohio State and Missouri, I'm not sure which one is ahead, but those are the top 2 guys or top 2 schools on his list. Don't be surprised if some more schools really make a run at him. Again, defensive tackles are in very short supply. It's just a fact. That's not going to change. And quite frankly, college football, if you look at the teams that win, most of them have a defensive tackle that's going to get drafted. When I mean win, I'm talking about make a run in the playoff. This is the kind of guy that has the frame that could end up being one of those players. Speaking of decommitments, I also cover Locked On Seminoles. The Noles lost a very good player yesterday. Tadarius Hughes has flipped his commitment from Florida State. He's from Miami Northwestern, one of the tradition-rich programs in the Sunshine State, to the Syracuse Orange. Right now, I don't know what it is with the magic elixir that Fran Brown has, but my goodness, has he done wonders down there in the Bayou or down there in South Florida and just getting good players. He's gotten multiple guys out of South Florida the last couple of years. This year, he's got 3 kids just from the Miami Public League that are really good off the top of my head. More are possible, including Calvin Russell. Besides, I mean, Tadarius Hughes is a really talented safety, 6'3" kid that can run. I've seen him play live. They've got some good players. But this hurts Florida State. It's a brand thing. Florida State's trying to stay above water. They're a 500 team right now. That one stings a little bit. Not a lot else on the decommitment front, but we do have a few commitments that I want to talk about before we wrap up the show. And let's get these going here real quick. Franklin Whitley, talked about him a little bit. He committed yesterday. I need to check out his film. I don't know a ton about him, but I love the frame. 6'6", 265 out of Greenville High School, Greenville, South Carolina. He decided to pick the Noles over Clemson and a whole bunch of other offers. Defensive linemen with that kind of frame, they are absolutely in demand. Aiden Martin out of Berry Hill High School in Tulsa, Oklahoma. He's committed to Oklahoma State despite them not having a head coach right now. That's pretty wild. Offensive tackle, 6'5", 275. We got Marcellus Jackson out of Itawamba Community College in Fulton, Mississippi. He's a wide receiver. Slot, 5'8", 160 pounds. He's going to Kennesaw State. Houston picks up the commitment of James Henderson III. He's a corner out of Cy Falls High School just outside of Houston, 6', 170 pounds. And Kason Hutchins out of Northwest Mississippi Community College. He's a wide receiver, 6'2", 170. He's going to play for Rich Rod at West Virginia. Now, what's next? I talked a moment ago about coaches getting fired and a whole lot of guys, quite honestly, just kind of being up in the air. Today, we are literally 4 weeks away to the day from National Signing Day. Watch the recruitment lists, either unofficial or official. Doesn't even matter at this point. With all the coaching changes, the rumblings behind closed doors, these kids hear about stuff from their trainers, their 7-on-7 coaches, their high school coaches, and just talking to each other, recruit to recruit across the country. Cell phones make it easy. You're going to see some flips that some people didn't see coming, that I didn't even see coming. Who are they going to be? There's one way to get an idea of it. And again, it's the visits. Follow the visits. There won't be any school that doesn't have somebody at least looking around. Doesn't mean they'll actually take them. School like Ohio State, school like Notre Dame, there's very few that'll leave those programs, although Aaron Thomas just left Ohio State, so I shouldn't say that. He decommitted about 48 hours ago. Pretty good offensive tackle out of Arizona. There are going to be very few that don't see somebody at least consider it. It's a different era with NIL, so don't be shocked. Follow the visits. We'll see what happens. I'll probably do a little update on that on Friday. Got to wait till later in the week when the lists get released and the rumblings become more official. But come Friday, we're going to hear about somebody we don't even think is on the radar from Flip It. Not even a possibility. And it's going to happen. Recruiting/silly season is in full swing in November. So let's talk about the schools that are at least still, you would think, an option for something to happen, and some rumors I've heard here lately just across the board. We're just no particular order here, no bias. These are just top of my head, but this is what I've been told and things that matter. Kentucky, Stoops, his buyout is insane. It is a large chunk of money up front kind of deal. Highly doubt it's going to happen. It's like $30 million. But most of it, I think, is within like 3 months or all of it. Yeah, they're trying to win a basketball. Do I think they're going to fire him? No. Plus, they just wanted Auburn. They played pretty crappy on offense, scored 10 points. Do I think they're going to fire him? No. Wisconsin. I keep hearing that they're not going to can him. They are terrible. It is what it is. I just hear they don't want to have the financial stomach for doing it. Badger fans, I feel sorry for you. That is not a good situation. Wisconsin is a former good program. They are no longer a team that is in the top third of the Big Ten. They are a bottom 3 Big Ten program. It should not be that way. They have to dump more money into it. And when I say more money, I mean way more money into it to be competitive. NIL and facilities, not one or the other, both. Until then, that program's probably going to struggle. South Carolina is an interesting one. 2 parts. Number one, they haven't met expectations this year. And number two, Beamer. He is a grad and the son of Virginia Tech legend Frank Beamer. That job's still open, but we're hearing that Franklin is going to get that gig, the former Penn State coach, James Franklin. What happens if he takes it? What would happen with Beamer? Like if they totally bottom out, like if they get beat by Clemson bad at the end of the year, would they do something? I don't know. Sometimes I think it's kind of odd because Beamer, I mean, he's a good football coach, but South Carolina's never been a great program. It just never has. But their fan base is crazy. Would they possibly move on him? Let's see. Tennessee. I've actually heard a few rumblings there. Now, they haven't beat anybody big this year, although they probably should have beat Georgia. But after what happened in the offseason, Tennessee fans need to chill a little bit. Plus, they lost both their corners early in the year, etc. They just had a really bad go of it. They've done pretty decent, all things considered. I know the Oklahoma game is disappointing. Y'all weren't going to be a national title contender this year. And who would you hire if you got rid of it? For those of you, and I know it's not a big portion, who would you hire if you got rid of anybody on the staff? Coordinator, head coach, all of it. This is not exactly the greatest cycle to jump in the fray. Auburn's in the mix. Penn State's in the mix. LSU's in the mix. Florida's in the mix. At worst, you would have a reduced assistant coaching pool because there's so much competition. At worst, you'd end up with a worse head coach than you have now. That never goes very far in terms of victories. Tennessee's a great job. Ironically, it's my favorite stadium in college football. But be careful. be careful for what you ask. I think that that's a good job, and they still have some chances to finish out this season strong. But until Faison Brandon is on campus and in at least year two, whatever you get is whatever you get. This year and next year, you're probably an 8-4, 9-3 team. It is what it is. Let's continue and move a little bit west. Dave Aranda, is he ever going to get fired at Baylor, or is he always just in the hot seat because they're up and down? Keep in mind, they've got an NFL quarterback right now. Is Baylor going to come open this year, or are they going to wait till next season when they don't have an NFL quarterback and they just completely go splat to can him? That's one I'm not sure about. I could see it going that direction, but who knows? Very difficult to tell. Then when you want to go out even further west, just to bring it up, I haven't heard anything recently on UCLA. That's a really interesting job. Obviously, they fired their coach after just a few games and then turned around and beat Penn State. That was wild. But does anybody really want that job? Because speaking of not doing much with the facilities, like I talked about with Wisconsin recently, good grief. UCLA doesn't want to spend money on coaching. They don't want to spend money on facilities. They just want to be cheap. It's probably the worst major college football program as it relates to expectations and ability, because what's local to them recruiting-wise is insane, yet they're terrible. That's on the UCLA administration. That's on the state of California. There's no shortcut. You can't just spend. You have to overspend just to be good, not great. They are awful, and they don't give themselves a chance, and that ends up hurting the athletic department as a whole, because if you win at football and fill the Rose Bowl, that money comes back in, and then you can invest it in whatever you want. Very, very poor business plan by UCLA. Finally, just overall, there's going to be a job somewhere that opens that I'm not even talking about. That's the nature of college football. There's going to be somebody that lays an egg or does something that really ticks off the boosters. And where do I get that at? Look at it this way. James Franklin was in the top 2 in the college football polls. 2 weeks later, he was fired. How crazy is that? There's going to be somebody we're not talking about. Who knows who it is? Anything is possible. College football, man, it is really crazy. Anything is possible week to week. And it just makes you wonder sometimes. With that, let's check out the chat, see what everybody's got going on here. Let's see here. The history expert. Notre Dame absolutely should be ranked in the top 12. I look at the same teams around Notre Dame, and I would take Notre Dame on a neutral site over almost every team. I think that's part of it. It's like, what's the subjectivity of it? I grew up watching Notre Dame fan, the whole nine. But looking at it logistically, you lost your 2 big games early. You should have definitely beat A&M. And then afterwards, I mean, you beat USC and did it decisively, but you still should have beat them worse. They always leave points on the board, and they haven't beat anybody else that's that great. Neutral field, theoretical, all that, totally get it. But Notre Dame hasn't played a complete game yet this year. Closest they did was the Arkansas game, but they gave up like 150 yards rushing. That's one of their worst rushing defensive games of the year. So I have no problem where Notre Dame's at. I probably would have ranked them 1 or 2 spots lower, similar, but at the same time, I get it. The one I'm still more iffy about is Miami. It should have been a little higher because they beat Notre Dame. But again, this is my shot at the committee, not Notre Dame, not Miami. They rank teams too much based on just how many losses you have. That's the dumbest criteria. Every schedule is different. Would BYU be undefeated with Notre Dame's schedule, with Miami's schedule? No. Would they beat Notre Dame or Miami on a neutral field? I don't think they'd beat either one of them. You give me a motivated Miami team or Notre Dame team against BYU, you could play it at BYU. I would take Miami or Notre Dame in either one of those. That is 100% my concern. Charles Faust, BYU will fall out of the top 15 if they lose to Tech this weekend. It will all work itself out in the coming weeks as long as Notre Dame takes care of business. Irish may host if things fall right. I would say there's a really good chance. I don't think BYU, I agree with you. That's one, and there will be at least one more that they go ahead of. I don't think Notre Dame will lose. I think they'll get Pittsburgh problems because I don't think Pittsburgh will be able to run the ball on them. They might throw it around a little bit, but they'll have a couple of interceptions. Notre Dame will win 10, 14 points, and that'll be their closest game remaining. I think they will annihilate Navy. Those are saying, oh, Navy's not going to give Notre Dame problems. They play Navy every year. They practice for them every single week, and Notre Dame is way faster than them. They're not going to hit outside running plays. Navy's going to get smoked by Notre Dame. That's got 41 to the 17 written all over it. With that being stated, Notre Dame is kind of a fickle team. They don't always show up. Anything's possible. The history expert, I see Oregon losing again and falling out of the top 12. They got Iowa coming up on the road. For those of you that didn't see, by the way, this is funny. Phil Parker, and I don't know the exact quote, this is paraphrasing. He's the DC, great defense coordinator for a long time for the Hawks. Said something about to the effect of Oregon has some of the best players money can buy kind of thing. Like he took a shot at their NIL. I don't know why you would do that, but that probably motivates the Ducks a little bit. Charles Faust, I agree. I see Oregon losing to Iowa or SC, not the same team as last year. Their quarterback situation is weird. Dante started hot, but then he just fell off, like really, really fell off. What's up, Raymond? Coleman Smith, what up, Brian? Any recruiting news for the Irish? They're just bringing in guys for visits. I just saw something. They've got a visit coming up. Let me see if I can find it. They had somebody coming up here that's a pretty good player that's supposed to be visiting for the Navy. That I probably am going to pronounce it Sieg. He's the safety out of the state of Pennsylvania that was committed to Penn State. He's one of the guys. And then they got another kid. I can't remember who it is. It's going to be visiting, but Notre Dame is doing quite well with recruiting. There is no doubt about that. We got Johnny Warner. Notre Dame is getting the nod over Miami. Miami beat them. Okay, whatever. Yeah, I get it. Miami won that game. That counts. But it's obvious the committee counts the games in the back half of the schedule differently. That's my opinion. I don't know. Again, I think it's partially because of the TV product. They want teams that are trending up for the playoff. I understand it, but I wish they would count it a little bit differently. Raymond Horton, don't lose to unranked teams. That's true. That's true. Miami lost to SMU and they lost to Louisville. Louisville's pretty good. SMU just lost to Wake Forest, to Florida State. And by the way, I cover Florida State. They're terrible in a lot of ways, but they beat Wake Forest by 5 touchdowns. And SMU just lost to them, but they beat Miami the next week. Miami just doesn't show up for games every week. It's so wild. Go Irish Nate. Unfortunately for us, Miami will be unranked by the end of the season. Not that it will matter by then. If Miami doesn't lose one more, I'd be surprised. They got to prove it to me now, because right now I don't buy them. Let's see. They look at where they were at the time. There's some truth in that. Go Irish Nate. Agree, Ray. Just taking a shot at Miami. The history expert. I wasn't using it as an argument, Raymond. Let's see here. What do you think about Notre Dame's chances with Fakatu, with him possibly reclassing to 27? I know Fakatu, he's a great kid. It'll be SC or Notre Dame. Hard to say. Great kid, by the way. He's 6'7.5". He could end up as an offensive lineman. Let's see. All right, it looks like that's it for the chat. One last comment, just as a reminder, every day at noon Eastern, going to be talking about now the college football playoff rankings, coaching firings, recruits that committed, decommitments, transfer portal, and some speculation / looks at some of the coaching profiles. I'm digging into some guys like Sumrall. John Sumrall's the coach at Tulane. I think he'll end up at Auburn. That's my guess. Could be somewhere else. But I'm looking at some of that. And I'm also going to get back into it. It's just been so busy doing some quarterback profiles for the class of 2027, just playing film at the end of the live show every day. I think it's a lot of fun. There are a lot of really good players in the class of 2027 that are quarterbacks. And I'm even getting ready to go see one. I'm going to go see next week, not this week, but next week. I'm going to go see Teddy Gerard, Notre Dame's commit up in Atlanta. I don't live that far from him. Go check him out and just talk about the quarterbacks, because that's the most important position in football. LSU's got a commit already that's really good. Notre Dame's got one, and several other schools are trying to get guys. We're going to see an early run on 2027 quarterbacks. So that is something to discuss. Thank you once again for checking out the Portal Podcast. Please like and subscribe. We will see you again soon.